So, good morning. Hope you're all doing well. And this morning, I want to talk about or share about um, becoming health missionaries. Um, I know that I think some of us, maybe some of the younger ones, you're thinking about what you're going to study and this sort of thing. Others have already decided. And I want to, I guess, sort of encourage us all to really think about becoming health missionaries, whether you're actually in the health field or not. Um, because I think Adventists, our church, puts a really special emphasis on that. And as you'll see, I think there's a great need, and that the Lord is calling all of us to engage in some sort of health missionary work, right? So first of all, did you guys know that the Seventh-day Adventist Church we run the largest nonprofit healthcare system in the U.S., the Protestant one? Obviously, the Catholics run the biggest, but we're second, and we're first among Protestant denominations. Okay, we run the biggest healthcare system in the U.S., nonprofit, and also one of the biggest in the world. It's quite a remarkable achievement for a small church like ours. So I hope you guys see these images here. The one on the left, this one here, is actually Florida Hospital. It's in Florida, Orlando, Florida, and it's one of the largest hospitals in America. And it's owned and operated by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The one on the right here is Loma Linda. And obviously, I think many of us know Loma Linda. Since you're Korean, in Seoul, they have the Samyuk Medical Center there. That's the one on the left. And the one on the right here is Your Best Pathway to Health. Is a free mega clinic that's held every year, providing free health services to people in need in the U.S. I volunteered in one in Los Angeles in 2018, I think it was. And this is for Layla, this is for you and my wife. This is it's actually in the Philippines. This is the Adventist Medical Center in Manila, in the Philippines. I've heard that it's one of the best hospitals in that city. Okay, it's pretty remarkable. Did you guys know that the Seventh-day Adventist Church runs 227 hospitals and sanitariums worldwide? Okay, 227. That's a lot. 133 nursing and homes and senior retirement homes, 673 clinics. We operate 6 medical schools. 2 more are being developed in Africa. 70 nursing schools. We run 15 orphanages and children's shelters, and our official medical system serves 21.5 million people every single year. It's pretty remarkable, and I think the question is, why does such a small church, relatively small church like ours, put so much emphasis on health work, right? I think about it, we're a relatively small church, but we run one of the largest healthcare systems in the world, including in the US. It's really remarkable. So why is that? Why do you think we put so much emphasis on health work? I'm gonna pause here. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Want to share?
Because as Christians, we care about health, right? So that's why we put it simply, that's why we put emphasis on health and the health industry.
Okay.
I think health it's a universal topic, and helping people through health can, introduce why we're doing it, and then introduce, our religion.
Okay.
Because having a good health is having a good spirit.
Okay,
and even in our church, we are the one who eat the what God has told us to eat, and not eating what He has not told us to eat. So that is there's a big connection to it, because if you cannot evangelize, you cannot preach if according to the Bible, if you are not doing what's according to the Bible, you
Yeah,
cannot follow it. So yeah, we need to promote a good health to people we are encountering, reach the God's word.
yeah, that's right. Thank you, Layla. We're going to talk about that. And I think that's true. You know, health is obviously a universal concern, and you know, God wants us to be healthy. We're going to talk about that. But it's interesting how, you know, there are many Christian denominations, but many of them don't have systems like ours, and they're much bigger. They have many more members, but they don't have the health emphasis like we do. So Seventh-day Adventists are very unique in that we put a particularly strong emphasis on health. And like Layla said, the connection between health and our spirituality. And so I want to read you this quote here. This is from Ellen White in the Seventh Testimony. She says, "We have come to a time when every member of the church should take hold of the medical missionary work." You know, I think at Seventh-day Adventists, we've come to really embrace health work in large part due to God speaking to us through Ellen White and the emphasis that she put in her writings about the importance of health and the need to do health missionary work. And this is one of the statements. Here she says that every member, so that's you, me, all of us, should in some way, you know, take hold of the medical missionary work. And so what I want to do is I want to basically kind of share, I think, 5 reasons why I think you know, I want to encourage us all to do that. Okay? So first, so Jesus himself was a medical missionary. Okay, Jesus himself was a medical missionary. So if you guys go back to our scripture reading, Matthew 4:23 to 25. Matthew 4:23 to 25. And since we already read that, I'm not gonna ask someone to read it, but it says here, and Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in the synagogues, preaching the gospel, and healing all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. So we need to do all 3. We need to teach, we need to preach, and also we need to heal. Okay. Then his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought to him all sick people who were afflicted with various diseases and torments, and those who were demon possessed, epileptics and paralytics, and he healed them. Great multitudes followed him from Galilee and from Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and beyond the Jordan. Okay. So you know, it says here that he was teaching, preaching, and healing. And particularly if you look at the context, it seems like from the healing, his fame went throughout all Syria. And because more and more people brought you know, their sick people to him. Okay. In fact, you know, Ellen White, she writes, during his ministry, Jesus devoted more time to healing the sick than to preaching. Okay. So, you know, this really shows us that when people brought sick people to Jesus, you know, Jesus had really compassion on them, and he just he healed them. He just wants us to be healthy. As we know, God created us to be healthy. Death, and sickness came as a result of sin. Okay, and so you know, just like what Jesus did, healing people, and then his fame went throughout the land. In the same way, if we were to more engage in this health ministry work, it would allow us to really connect better with people and to kind of really spread the word about our message and who we are to those around us. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that shortly. Okay. And later on, when just before Jesus went back to heaven, he told his disciples that they would also continue his the healing ministry. If you go to Mark 16, let's all turn to Mark 16. That's the book right after Matthew. Mark 16, and we're gonna go to verse 15 to 18. And maybe I'm going to ask maybe Matt, if you can read that for us. 15 to 18.
Yep. Is everyone else there?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. All right. Mark 16, 15 to 18 reads, "And he said to them, Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will follow those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons, they will speak with new tongues. They will take up serpents, and if they drink anything deadly, it will by no means hurt them, and they will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover."
All right, thanks, Matt. So here is the Great Commission. We know that we have to go to all the world and preach the gospel, and that's what the Seventh-day Adventist Church is definitely doing right now. But it says here that one of the signs that will accompany the church after him was they'll lay hands on people and they'll recover. Okay, so clearly the Christian church after Jesus went back to heaven, we're supposed to continue the healing ministry of Christ. Okay, here you see this is Loma Linda University, and its mission actually is to continue the teaching and healing ministry of Jesus Christ. Okay. As some of you may know, I did my master's in public health at Loma Linda. So, and I believe that we as a whole, we should really be doing this. We have to continue the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. That's what Jesus wants us to do. And the Seventh-day Adventist Church has really put a special emphasis on that. Okay. Second is that health ministry is an effective way to connect with other people. And we just saw that in that passage we read, where a lot of people just flocked around Jesus. A lot of it had to do with the fact that he was healing people. These people were sick. Obviously, medical care was not like what it is now. And they would go to the priest and all these people and get shunned. But they would come to Jesus, and he would heal them, just simply because he had compassion. He loved them. He wants them to be healthy. And so it allowed him to connect with people and really won their hearts, and allowed him to share the message with them. In the same way, that's true for us. If we do health ministry, it'll allow us to better connect with people so that we can share the important message that we have to share as Seventh-day Adventists. Okay. I want you guys to contemplate these two quotes from the book's Counsels on Health. Okay. She says, "I can see in the Lord's providence that the medical missionary work is to be a great entering wedge whereby the diseased soul may be reached." A great entering wedge. Okay, so you guys know what like a wedge is, right? When I was young, I used to play a computer game called Shogun Total War. Basically, it's like in Japan, and you're like a daimyo, and you fight each other and stuff like that. It's like a strategy game. And basically, when you have your soldiers on the field, you could put them in different formations. You could put them in block formation. You could put them in line formation. And then there was a formation called the wedge. It's basically like a triangle with the pointy end towards your enemy. And then when they attack, they attack in a wedge formation. And this was one of the best attack formations. Okay. So basically, the idea is like the wedge is like it allows you to enter something, attack something, right? So as Seventh-day Adventists, health medical missionary work is supposed to be the entering wedge, where we could reach people. Elsewhere in that book, she says, medical missionary work is the pioneer work of the gospel, the door through which the truth for this time is to find an entrance to many homes. Okay, we enter a home through a door, right? And that door is supposed to be medical missionary work. We can really reach people's hearts through medical missionary work. A demonstration of the principles of health reform will do much towards removing prejudice against our evangelical work. Okay, so removing prejudice, as we all know, it's often hard to share the gospel and our message to others. Just think about reaching, sharing with other Christians. We have very different beliefs than most Christian denominations, right? The Sabbath, our belief that hell is not forever, that it's just used to destroy the wicked, that we believe that you don't go straight to heaven or hell. George has been talking about predestination. We don't really believe in that, and all these other things, really can form a barrier to connecting with other Christians. And as we know, the society at large is kind of getting more like secular, and our beliefs about marriage, about sexuality is very much at odds with at least popular and intellectual culture, right? So it's kind of hard. But when you use health, you can really connect with people despite the prejudice they may have about some of our beliefs. So let me just share with you an example. Last, gosh, I think it was, when was 1 Month in Paradise? I think it was August, September. Basically, we ran a program, a health program called 1 Month in Paradise. Now, you guys might be thinking, why Paradise? It was run with a farm and a clinic named Paradise Fields. George works there. So we called it 1 Month in Paradise, basically where we got a group of patients, and in 1 month, we provide them medical consultations, nutrition consultations, in-home exercise sessions, and we try to help them go on a plant-based diet and to deal with their chronic disease. Most of them had some like excess weight, so they were a little bit on the bigger side, and had type 2 diabetes, hypertension. Many of them had depression, and after that 1 month, we saw some really remarkable results. People felt better, they lost weight, this sort of stuff. But what was really remarkable was that actually we had 6 people who went through the program. 4 of them were LGBT, and they were all women, so they were lesbian basically. And actually, some of them, they kind of looked us up, and they realized that we're Seventh-day Adventists. They even looked us up, our beliefs about marriage, and what we thought about homosexuality and this sort of stuff. So even though they knew that as a Seventh-day Adventist church, we hold strong to traditional marriage and heterosexual relationships, they still joined the program. They still allowed us to work with them, and they really enjoyed it. I want you guys to think about that. If you ask most of these kinds of people to come to our church, they'll think you're crazy, and most of us would probably not even dare to do that. But since we're helping them with their health, we were able to connect with them and minister to them. Okay, and there was actually one lady who felt so much better. She was so grateful. She started to have a relationship with one of our nutritionists to learn about more about her beliefs and this sort of thing. She still comes to Paradise Fields, to the farm and store and all that stuff. So it's really remarkable, and this is exactly what health ministry does. It allows us to connect with people despite the prejudices they might have towards our faith. And even with our many hospitals in places like China, in Muslim countries, in Pakistan, in India, where these are Muslims, Hindus, atheists, secular, these places, our health ministry work allows us to connect with these communities despite prejudice they have to our faith, right? And so if you really want to serve the Lord, your health ministry is really one of the main ways to go, okay? We'll talk about him later. All right, number 3. Currently, there is a growing interest in our health message, all right? Particularly plant-based eating. So, a couple years ago, there was a poll they did among Canadians, and they found out that, what is it here? Around 10% of Canadians consider themselves vegetarian or vegan, but more than half of those who consider themselves vegetarian or vegan are young people under 35. There is a lot of people getting interested in the plant-based diet. Obviously, the diet that we promote as Seventh-day Adventists. Many of these young people are getting interested because, you know, animal rights, they're concerned about animals, they're concerned about the environment, things like that. But whatever the reason might be, many people are starting to go plant-based, and there's tremendous interest now in that. This is a study. So, you know, I went on Google Trends actually, and Google Trends allows you to kind of see the interest in certain search topics. So if you look at the interest, the Google search for the topic vegan, you see this, you know, from 2004 here, you see the steady increase, right, to 2019, 2020. Okay, so I went to Korea for fun, and same thing in Korea as well. You see this dramatic increase. Okay, over the past kind of sort of 2 decades, right? So people are definitely becoming more interested in plant-based eating and the vegan lifestyle. Let's just skip that. Even many athletes, I'm sure many of us can identify some of these people here. Many athletes now are going vegan, especially in the NBA. And I'm not sure if you guys have Netflix, but if you guys do, you guys should look at this film called The Game Changers. Okay, have any of you guys seen the film Game Changers? Anyone?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
If you guys have Netflix, go there and watch this film. It's about all these athletes who are going vegan. Okay, it's produced by like Jackie Chan, Schwarzenegger, all these guys. Okay, it's a really, really good film. You guys should check it out. Here, it's talking about how milk consumption in the U.S. has declined by 26%. That's remarkable. A quarter. Okay, and so many dairy companies are struggling right now because many people are going to plant-based milks like almond milk and soy milk, cashew milk, and these sorts of things. Many meat companies are starting to produce plant-based products. So, you know, Hormel is one of the biggest legacy meat companies in the US, and they produce their own line called Happy Little Plants, okay, for what they're calling plant curious customers. Okay. So, you know, obviously we at Seventh-day Adventists, we promote a plant-based diet, and this growing interest in plant-based eating really provides an opportunity for us to really get our name out there as more people get interested and they see that, you know, there's actually a church, a Christian church that promotes this kind of diet that science has shown, and many influencers are adopting, you know, is a healthiest diet for us, right? So it provides a really remarkable opportunity that it doesn't provide for other churches. I want to go back to this guy here. So this guy here, he's a guy we know. His name is Leroy. He's basically he came out to some of our dinner with the doctor events and helped us out. This guy is he used to be really big, but he lost a lot of weight after going on a plant-based diet, and he became one of these like vegan activists, and he was having a conversation with George one time, and he shared with George, like, you know, why is it that when I do my activism and stuff like that, those who are most against the plant-based lifestyle are actually Christians. He says that Christians seem particularly anti-plant-based. Because, you know, obviously we hold our dinner with the doctor events at churches, and he knew that we're Christians, so he kind of thought that we're a little bit odd, you know, very unusual. So George told him, he said, you know, did you actually know that the Bible promotes a plant-based diet? And told him how, you know, God's original diet was a plant-based diet, and this sort of thing. And so basically, like, he was really surprised, you know, and because we as a church promote a plant-based diet, we're able to connect with people like him. Unlike other Christian denominations, perhaps, who don't put that much emphasis on this, may not have such an opportunity. Okay, so actually, I've heard other Christians say things like, "Oh, your meat tastes so good, so they must have been created for us to eat them." And it's kind of lousy arguments like that. So when Christians say stuff like that, and the science clearly shows that plant-based diet is better, it just you kind of lose credibility, right? But Seventh-day Adventists, we don't have that kind of problem. Okay, so as interest in the plant-based lifestyle grows, it really does provide an opportunity for us as Seventh-day Adventists to connect with other people and share our faith. All right. All right, and lastly, the world really needs our health message today. Okay, the world really needs our health message today. I want you guys to let's just pause to think about COVID. Okay, why are we in this mess right now? This doctor here is Dr. Li Wanliang. He's the ophthalmologist in China who first sounded the alarm about COVID. Now, as we're looking into where this started, as we all know by now, they're suspecting 1 or 2 wet markets in Wuhan, China. In these wet markets, they're selling lots of exotic animals. Here on this photo, do you guys know what this animal is? Oops, this animal here.
The yummy penguin.
Huh?
Yummy.
Yummy, yeah, pangolin. Okay, so
What's that?
Pangolin.
Oh,
Pangolin.
okay.
It looks like some anteater kind of thing, but obviously at this wet markets, they sell all this kind of weird, unusual animals to eat, right? And the idea is that perhaps from a bat, the virus jumped to one of these animals. They think maybe a pangolin. I know that right now they look at another wet market, but regardless, it jumped to another animal, and then it somehow got transmitted to humans through either handling the meat or eating it or something like that. In any case, the human consumption and farming of these sorts of animals is really kind of where these big pandemic diseases are breeding from. In fact, if you look at some of the biggest pandemics of recent times, they all trace back to animals. So if you in the middle here, I think this is SARS-CoV-2 in the far left, but in the middle here is H1N1, big outbreak in 2009, and it was traced to pigs. And then the far right one is HIV/AIDS. And do you guys know where HIV/AIDS came from? They believe that it started originating in Africa from people eating and handling bushmeat, which is basically monkeys, like primates. So, and if you guys notice something about the 3 animals I put here, what do you guys notice about them? What kind of animals are they?
The Bible would say they're unclean.
Land scavengers.
Yes, right? The Bible considers these unclean animals, right? The Bible does permit us to eat meat, but they have to have certain features, right? Cows and chickens and lamb, and we all know that, right? But we're not supposed to be eating, fish without fins and scales. Pigs or pork is unclean. Chimpanzees and stuff is unclean. These are unclean, and obviously for good reason they're unclean. But people don't know that, so they're eating these kinds of things. They're farming these kinds of animals. They're handling them. And then it's spreading these diseases that have slaughtered millions of people. HIV/AIDS has killed something like, I think 20, 30 million or something, might be more. Millions and millions of people have died from these big epidemics. Okay, you think SARS-CoV-2 is big. It's really, compared to other ones, it's not. HIV/AIDS has killed millions of people. H1N1, all these diseases. They think another pandemic is coming. It's probably going to come from another one of these things, animal agriculture. So it's really a problem. In 2007, we went to Cambodia. We went to markets there, and we saw this. Can you guys tell what this is in Cambodia?
All I can say is it looks nasty.
Scorpion?
These are spiders.
No.
Big spiders, not the little ones we see here in Canada. These are like big ones, okay? So they fry them and I don't know, put some sauce or something on them. They sell them. And this is like a special delicacy in parts of Cambodia. You know, in Hosea 4:6, why don't we turn there? Let's go there briefly. Hosea 4:6 is it's in the latter part of the Old Testament. Hosea 4:6, right after the book of Daniel. And I'm gonna ask maybe one of our ladies, Sarah, if you're there, if you can read.
Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge because you have rejected knowledge. I also reject you as my priest because you have ignored the law of your God. I also will ignore your children.
All right. So he's saying my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. You know, you can't be destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And this is what we're seeing right now. You know, people don't know any better. I almost don't blame them. They don't know what the Bible says about, you know, about what we should be eating. And if you want to eat meat, you got to eat just certain kinds of meat because they're generally healthier for you. Certainly, you shouldn't be eating animals like, you know, insects and stuff like this, right? And then people suffer the consequences. And that's what we're seeing today, right? So people really need to hear our message about health more than ever before. You know, people need to be educated. And that's what we need to do at Seventh-day Adventists. Okay, Ellen White here, she says, often animals are taken to market and sold for food when they are so diseased that their owners fear to keep them longer. And some of the processes of fattening them for market-produced disease, right? So even among so-called clean animals that the Bible permits, okay? Now remember, just because it permits it doesn't mean we should eat it. But in any case, even you know, industrial animal farming and this sort of thing, you know, it breeds disease. And in fact, they believe that the next pandemic is going to come probably from chickens, the mass chicken farming that we do. They think that the next pandemic virus might be bred from one of these chicken farms. But in any case, you know, this is exactly what happens, and we're seeing the consequences of it right now. Okay. Now, even going beyond just the unclean animal part, if you look at, I want one of you guys to consider this graph. Okay, this is Ontario, and this is the this is the cases and death from COVID. So I want you guys to notice something, right? So the top graph here is the number of cases by age. So here you see 0 to 9. There's 15,352 people in Ontario have got COVID. I think a lot of us young ones, you guys are in 10 to 19 range. So 29,000 of you guys have got COVID. Many of us in 30, 39, I think. So 51,000 of us. Then it goes on and on. Okay, these are cases. Now I want you guys to look at deaths. Okay, this is really important. Look at the deaths. So among kids 0 to 9-year-old, even though those 15,000 cases, there's only one death. That's 0.0065% of people, of these kids who got COVID died. So 10 to 19, many of you guys, right, are this age. 29,000 of you guys got COVID so far. Only one of you guys have died. That's 0.0033%. Okay, so you know when you hear on the news, when you hear stuff, whatever, saying that, oh, we have to protect our kids and all this stuff, you know, really, that's silly. You guys are really not at risk for COVID at all. Okay, the risk is super low, as you can see. This is 0.0033%. Okay, even among 20 to 29-year-olds, yeah, I think just maybe a couple of us are in that range. The death rate is 0.0014%, even lower. Many of us are in our 30s. Death rate is 0.042%. Okay, only 22 deaths among 51,000 people. Okay, this is, you guys don't hear this on the news, but this is right from Public Health Ontario. You guys can go see it yourself. Okay, but as you guys, but if you notice, most of the cases are among younger people, younger adults, but the deaths are very, very low. So obviously, younger people are not really at risk for COVID, despite what you might hear from teachers, the news, or whatever. You guys are really, most of us here are not at risk at all. Even if you get COVID, you might get a little bit sick, flu, but you'll get better. Okay, but notice this: as you get older, the number of cases is lower, but the death rates are very high. So people above 90 years old, 7,600 cases, 30%, nearly 30% of them die. So COVID is serious for those who are seniors. Okay, 80 to 89-year-olds. I know some of us have grandparents of this age. 13,000 cases, 2,600 deaths. That's nearly 20%. So 1 in 5 die if they get COVID. So again, that's very serious for older people. When you're in the 70s, it gets a little bit lower, 8.54%, but that's still a high death rate from the disease. Okay. So the point is that as you get older, you know, the severity for COVID, getting severe COVID is much higher. Okay. So why is that? You know, why is that younger people is much less at risk? Clearly, way at risk. Basically, it's like no problem. You guys really shouldn't be concerned. I know that might sound a bit radical, but I mean, these are the numbers, right? You guys really should not be concerned about COVID at all, okay? But there are people who really should be concerned about COVID, especially as you get older, okay? Now, obviously, as you get older, you get weaker, right? So that's understandable, okay? But, you know, as they've been studying this, scientists, they've started to realize that when you have chronic diseases that are related to poor lifestyles like diabetes, if you have excess weight, if you have hypertension, if you have heart disease, you are at greater risk from, it seems to be very strongly linked to severe cases of COVID and death from COVID, okay? So this is a little bit scientific here, but let me just go through it quickly. So in a scientific paper, they said the first pandemic of the 21st century, which is COVID, uncovered the sinister relationship between obesity and comorbidity upon viral infection. Today, COVID-19 has exploited our increasingly obese world in its global spread. Okay, so basically what we're seeing right now is basically a collision of two pandemics, if you will. Okay, the first is the pandemic of obesity. Okay, 20% of Canadians have too much weight. So, and chronic disease. Okay, so that plus this new virus that's spreading in this infection collided together to produce what we're seeing today. Okay, and of course, we all know that obesity and chronic disease are related to poor lifestyle, eating lots of meat, eating too much food, eating lots of processed food, drinking too much pop. All these things lead to obesity and chronic disease. And this is why we're seeing what we're seeing today. Okay, just let me share with you some things here like this. For instance, you know, there was a study done by the scientist named Zhang et al. And basically what they found was that among they comparing patients with severe COVID and patients who died from COVID and those who did not. And when you look at those who died from COVID or had severe COVID, the odds of them having cardiovascular disease was 5.19 times greater. Okay, having respiratory disease, diabetes, hypertension, okay, smoking, etc. Okay, so all these things, those who died from COVID or had severe COVID, there are greater likelihood to have had these diseases compared to those who did not have severe cases of COVID. All right. Another study from, I think this is from New York. They looked at people who were hospitalized for COVID. Look at this. 42% of those who were hospitalized were obese. Okay. 19% were morbidly obese, which is like really, really big. So basically combine this together, most of the people who had to be hospitalized for COVID, most of them had too much weight. Okay, so there's a link between obesity, chronic disease, and having bad outcomes from Okay. Here, this scientist, he says, two categories of disease are interacting within specific populations: infection with severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, and an array of non-communicable diseases, which is like diabetes and obesity and this sort of thing. Addressing COVID-19 means addressing hypertension, high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular, and chronic respiratory disease and cancer. All right, so basically the point here is simple. Okay, it's that poor lifestyle makes us have high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, and these other chronic diseases. And it's these diseases that then makes us susceptible to being sick from infectious diseases. If you don't have these kinds of diseases, really your risks from these sorts of viruses, even if you get them, are relatively low. Okay, but since so many people have these diseases, especially those who are older, they then get bad reactions to these viruses. Okay, and obviously we know that the health message that we promote as Adventists really prevents, treats, and even reverses many of these chronic diseases. Right. So if more of us were exercising better, got good sleep, we're eating a plant-based diet, most importantly, this sort of thing. Most of us don't need to get hypertension, don't need to gain too much weight, get diabetes and all this kind of stuff, right? These diseases are very preventable and also very treatable with a healthy lifestyle. Okay, so this is why our health message is really needed, and COVID-19 just kind of emphasizes the need for why we need to be engaged in health work. Let's skip that. So number 5, health work may be the only work left in these last days of Earth's history. Yeah. Ellen White, in Counsels on Health, she said, "I wish to tell you that soon there will be no work done in ministerial lines but medical missionary work." Okay, soon there's going to come a time when it's going to really be hard to just share the gospel. So what we have to do is really engage in medical missionary work to connect with people and share our message. And this is what Ellen White is saying. And it was really interesting, during this past year, obviously they shut down churches, and they even, I'm not sure if you guys know, they've been even imprisoning pastors here in Canada. Pastors have been thrown in jail for try to continue worship and this sort of thing. And so, the work of pastors and stuff has really become more difficult. But obviously, because we're in a health crisis, they allow health professionals to continue working. So in this past November, we held a compassionate health clinic at the Scarborough Seventh-day Adventist Church. Here's a photo. Here's George. Here's a nutritionist named Carolyn, and this is one of the patients that we saw. And we were able to help people. We held a free clinic. People came, and we were able to help them and teach them, about the importance of plant-based eating, to strengthen your immune system, to treating chronic diseases like diabetes, so you can be healthy, get ready for maybe another pandemic that might come, or even during COVID or whatever. And we're able to help people. Why? Because of our health work. And I think we're going to see more of this in the future as well. So if we as a church and we as individuals want to continue helping people and sharing our message, I think it really behooves us to really engage in health ministry, in health ministry, and we just saw that this past year. So just an example. Okay, and lastly, health missionary work works. Okay, here Ellen White in the book Evangelism, she says, "Nothing will open doors for the truth like evangelistic medical missionary work." Okay, she says, medical missionary work is the right helping hand of the gospel. It's the right arm of the gospel to open doors for proclamation of the message. Right. So I think most of us are right-handed. I'm not sure if any of us are left-handed, but I think most people are right-handed. So we write with a right hand, and we do things with our right hand, and most of us open doors with our right hand, and that's exactly what the medical missionary work is. It's supposed to be the right arm of the gospel to open doors for us to share the gospel. Okay, doors that have been closed to him who merely preaches the gospel will be open to the intelligent medical missionary. All right, and like I just said, this is exactly what we saw this past year. Even though pastors were limited, but we as health professionals could still work because of the health crisis. Skip that. So, one reason why I'm really passionate about this is because I'm an Adventist because of health missionary work. Right? So, here's a picture of my mom, and I think George may have shared a couple a little bit before, but how we became Adventists was there was a guy who came to our door, and he was selling books, and he shared with her. My mom met him at our door and shared with him that she had some digestive problems, and so this guy was an Adventist, a Korean, and he shared with her some natural things that she could do, like charcoal and this sort of thing, and also plant-based eating. And when you're sick, you kind of get desperate. So my mom tried that, and she got better. So they developed a relationship, and he shared with her some spiritual books, and then planted the seeds about the faith, and we started connecting with people at our church right now. With Matthew, with your grandmom, and these other people, and basically my mom learned more about the Adventist faith. She became to believe in the Sabbath. Then she obviously passed it on to us, taught us about these truths, and taught us the health principles. And then we got baptized when we were 15 or 16, 15 years old, I think. 15 years old. Okay, so, but the opening connection was through health, right? So health missionary work does work. And obviously I'm a product of it. Right? So if we really want to reach people, especially in these last days, we really need to engage in medical missionary work. And I hope that I made a strong case for that this morning. So again, I just want to end off with a quote. Again, we have come to a time when every member of the church should take hold of medical missionary work. And so just want to say, I think many of us are in the health profession, and some of the younger ones, I know you guys want to go into health work. I know Matt, you're studying obviously health, and I think Esther, you said you want to do some dental thing or something like that. Or, whatever it might be, if those of us who are in the health work and those who are thinking of going to that field, I really want to encourage us to continue doing that. You are going to have a very special opportunity to serve the Lord in a very, very powerful way. So I want you guys to consecrate, let's consecrate ourselves to that work and just study hard, and the Lord will use you in a really, really powerful way. For those of us who may not be necessarily directly in health work, this doesn't mean that we need to be. This doesn't mean that we have to be health professionals. The guy who came to my mom, the first Adventist that we met, he was not a doctor, not a nurse, he was not a health professional. If I recall correctly, I think he was one of the pastors of the church. But he knew about health. He knew the health principles, and he could share it. Okay, most of us are not going to be health professionals, but we all can share the simple health principles, right? So this is not to say that we all have to be a nurse or a doctor or a dentist or something like that. But it does mean that we should know about our health message. We should know the simple health principles, and that we should find opportunities to share them. And so even those of us who are not health professionals, I hope that you guys can do that, be educated and think of opportunities to share with people. And there are ministries out there like Compassion Health that Matt and that we're involved in, that gives just young people an opportunity to serve in health ministry work, even though we might not be licensed or something like that. Okay, we can all share lifestyle principles. You don't need to be a doctor or anything like that, right? They're very, very simple. So I want to encourage us to do that. And I think if we do that as a church, as individuals, we can really the Lord will use us and bless us to reach people. So well, that's pretty much it. I'm going to pause here. If anyone has questions or comments or thoughts, happy to entertain them. If not, we'll close worship with a song, and then with I'll pray.
If Jesus spent more time healing than preaching, then that's a rebuke to us, because if you look at most Adventist churches, we spend lots of time preaching, very little time in going out and helping people with their health. So maybe as a group, we have to think about that. If we look at what we do, is it mostly preaching, or do we have also healing ministry in there as well? And I think right now it's very slanted towards just preaching. So I think that's something for the leaders to really think about.
Thanks, George. That's a good point. And I think especially for young people, it's important for us to be active. I think a lot of us, we're sick and tired of church, to be quite frank, because, honestly, just coming to church and sitting around and listening and to people talk is really kind of boring. It can get boring. Now, it's very important. Okay, I don't want to diminish that. It's very important. Teaching and preaching the word is important. But young people also need to be active and engaged in work. And that's what health ministry allows us to do. It's very exciting. When we do compassion health, it's very exciting. You see people, you get to help people. It's very, it's incredible. So I think that's one way to really engage those of us who are younger. Church is not just about sitting around and, just listening. That's not what Christianity is about. Christianity is about going out and helping people in need so they can get better, and then we could turn their eyes to Jesus, who wants to save them from their sin, not just their health, their sickness, but their sin as well. Okay, this is what Christianity is about. Each one of us can do that. Anyone else? Comments or thoughts or questions?
Yeah, I agree with your whole message, and I think health is really important. Also, like in the Bible, it like mentions how like the body we have is like the body God has given to us, right? So we should take care of it.
Yep, that's right. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, Dan, I think you make a good point. I didn't really talk too much about taking care of our own bodies, but certainly that's, obviously if we're going to help people to be healthy, we should try to be healthy ourselves too, right? It's very good.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Also, you know how you said that we don't necessarily have to go into the health field to help others in a sense, right? With health, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, even if you were to go into, like, let's say law or business, right? You might not be physically helping them, but you could still like invest in causes and donate to causes, right? And that is still helping, right?
Oh yeah. So Dan, you want to go into business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you something. So there's actually a Adventist millionaire that we know in Hamilton, and I talked about Paradise Fields, right? So this millionaire, he actually learned about the health message. He got healthier, and he started a organic farm and health clinic, and he's going to set up a Adventist health center in Hamilton, and he's a multi-millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very passionate about health, and so he's funding the work. So George and I and some other friends, we're working with him to do that. So that's exact. So Dan, you're absolutely right. Even though you might not be a health professional, by making money and this sort of thing, you could really help us poor health professionals do the work we need to do. So
Yeah, like because in a sense, it all leads down to being a part of the team, contributing to the team, right? Everyone has their different roles. So I guess, yeah, you if I even if I weren't to go to the health field, I guess later on I can still contribute in other ways, right?
That's right. And this millionaire, he's obviously not a health professional. He's actually a real estate developer. He builds homes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he's like, again, he's a multi-millionaire. He's super rich, but he's very passionate about health. And he just shares with people too, just his
Yeah, for
friends and
sure.
colleagues. And you know, these hospitals that I share with you guys at the beginning, like Loma Linda Hospital, they recently built like a $21 million new pediatric cardiac center or something like that. It was by donation of somebody donated like $20 million to Loma Linda to build that.
Oh, wow.
So you know, the health work only advances from people, successful Adventists who donate to the work.
Mhm.
So most of us are not going to be health professionals. Most of us shouldn't be really necessarily, but we could all help out in a way. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for touching up on that.
yeah. So let's listen to this special song, and then we'll close.
There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning, some dark and cold. There is a spirit who brings a fire, ignites a candle, and makes his home. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see. Take your candle, go write your word. Take your candle, go write your word. See how he's tried to light his own candle, some other way. See now your sister, she's been robbed and lied to, still holds a candle without a flame. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, go light your world. We are a family whose hearts are blazing, so let's raise our candles, light up the sky, pray to our Father, in the name of Jesus, make us a beacon in the darkest times. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take Take your candle, go light your world.
All right. All right, everyone, let's pray. Eternal Father, Lord, when Jesus was here on earth, he went about healing people. We see so many stories in the Bible about that. And you're calling your church, each one of us, to continue that ministry. Lord, I pray that you will use us to serve other people. That you impress upon us, each one of us here today, as we contemplate the message, the importance of this kind of work, and see how we can be used by you in this work. I want to especially pray for our students as they're thinking about their future, whether it's in the health field or not, that you'll kind of show them how they can use their education and studies and their careers to serve you, to push forward the health work that we need to do. We know that this work is very special, and allow us to really share the three angels' messages, the message that people so desperately need to hear in these last days. I pray that you'll make this our experience. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you for the nice message.